Hi to everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I am Dr.SuhaniParekh and you are with me in the channel Fernful Life. A very welcome back to all. For those of you who have been already supporting me for so long, thank you for always giving your appreciating comments and timely feedback as well. And for those who are new to the channel, this is a channel where I upload video lectures related to botany and biological sciences. The motto of this channel is to give an in-depth and clear understanding about various topics that biological sciences deals with. So today, on this note, we are going to start with a new topic, that is Red Data Book. If this video lecture interests you, please make it a point to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more such new videos. So let us try to understand that what is Red Data Book. Now see, this Red Data Book is a very interesting topic because you will deal with various types of conservation related informations, and you will understand that this topic is sensitive as well. It is a topic of concern because uh, you will get to know that how our biodiversity is getting degraded and how a lot of organisms, a lot of animals and plants are getting extinct or are near to extinction because of our own activities, right? So this Red Data Book is a topic that we are going to proceed with further. So let us start with a basic understanding of what is a Red Data Book. So International Red Data Book is basically a book which was first published by Peter Scott, right, in the year of 1963. So basically Peter Scott was a member of Species Survival Commission of the IUCN, where IUCN stands for International Union for Conservation of Nature. And this Red Data Book is basically a very elaborated work done by the efforts of authors around the world. Though it was first published by Peter Scott, but then later on a lot of authors they joined in and they compiled the work together to give this result, which is called a Red Data Book. So what is a Red Data Book? A Red Data Book is a register of threatened wildlife that gives measurement about the health of the biodiversity. So Red Data Book is basically a kind of register, we can say, a kind of logbook in which you will get the list of all the threatened species in the world, right? And by knowing the threatened species, you will get to know what is the health of your biodiversity, what is the health of our environment, what is the health of our ecosystem. Because as and when due to various activities we have degraded our ecosystem, so as the biodiversity has degraded, a lot of organisms either have become extinct or are near to extinction or are into the threatened categories, right? So therefore this list very specifically tells us about the health of the biodiversity. So it began appearing from the year 1964 in spiral leaf-bound loose copies. Now see, at that time in 1964, it started as a spiral-bound copy. So what was the basic idea behind making a spiral-bound copy was to keep adding text, because it is not that, for example, 100 species have been listed, so now no other species is to be added. Continuously, one or another species will be going into this list because of our own uh, carelessnesses, our own carelessness. All these species, they go into the list because we don't care about them, and ultimately their habitat gets um, destructed, and therefore these species go into the threatened list, and the list keeps on increasing. So the basic idea behind putting this as a spiral bound copy was to keep adding the text. So either to update the data at regular intervals as and when the evaluation work was done at that time, or documentation work was done, whatever new species came into the list, it was being added at regular interval into the spiral bound copy. Then what happened? In 1980, IUCN International Union of Conservation of Nature then established a red data book unit. So now IUCN came up with a separate unit which is called a red data book unit. This unit was established in Cambridge, United Kingdom. Right? So in Cambridge, this unit was established. So due to the formation of this red data book unit, this resulted into a true book, which is a computerized version of what we today call as a red data book. So this is a true book. Initially it was spiral bound. Later on it was converted into a true book, which is called as a red data book, which is published by the IUCN. So the first plant red data book was published in 1978. So the red data book that we saw earlier in the previous slide was published in 1964, right? But that might not be including the plants. Now this red data book that we are talking about is the plant red data book, which was for the first time published in 1978, right? Which was almost 10 to 15 years after the first publishing of the red data book. So what did this plant red data book include? It covered 250 of the world's most threatened plant species. So this plant red data book had a list of 250 plants that were threatened from all around the world. Later on, every country were urged to make their own red data book at national level. Now see, when you work at international level, what happens is that resources are sometimes less because one person working at the top might not suffice the initiative, and therefore it was decided that each and every country and continent will make their own red data book at national level. So what happened? That red data book were made at national level in various countries and continents, because by this what will happen, that for example, if Africa has its own red data book, then all the species of Africa will be recorded here. Likewise, all the species of South America will be recorded in another book. Likewise, all the species of Australia will be recorded in another book. And when once national work is done, then all this data can be compiled at global level and a final list can be given. So therefore it was important to compile all the data and bring all the work done by different nations at their level. So every country were urged to make their own red data book at national level. So the IUCN red data book is basically a list of species whose continued existence is threatened, right? So this particular book has a list of all those species whose existence is threatened, which means that whether they will survive or not depends upon whether they are getting their habitat or not, depends upon whether we are going to conserve them or not. So they are almost near the verge of extinction. This IUCN Red Data book includes species that are categorized into different categories of perceived risk. Now, I had prepared a video lecture on the levels of biodiversity and IUCN categories of threat. So there are different IUCN categories in which based on different criteria those categories are made, and in those categories based upon the species, what criteria they are falling into, the species will be kept in those categories. So those categories we will look into it later on in a very like summary form, but all the species are categorized in different categories. For now, you can just keep this in mind. Each red data book deals with a specific group of animals or plants. So every red data book has a specific group of animals or plants. For example, if you see here, the IUCN Mammal Red Data Book. Now this red data book only includes all the mammals, right? So it includes a specific group of animals or plants. So likewise, for reptiles, the red data book will be different. For vascular plants, the red data book will be different, and likewise. So it is different for reptiles, different for mammals, right? Different for vertebrates, different for invertebrates, different for vascular plants, different for non-vascular plants. And now it is published in different countries at national level and later on compiled together to give it as a global data. So IUCN Conservation Monitoring Center, which is now called as World Conservation Monitoring Center, started publishing red data book, and in that way they published 9 volumes of international red data book. So these 9 volumes covered 1233 taxa over 13 years, right, which was almost 95 taxa per year. Now see, this is basically an information that I have taken from the website of IUCN Red List. So this website is iucnredlist.org. So you can go to this website. From that website only I have taken this information, where they have explained very beautifully that what is red list, what is red data book, and what are they doing in this red list and why is this important. So see here they have given numbers. These are present numbers of 2022. What they have given? Vertebrates, right? For example, all the vertebrates, their assessment goal is 61,635. Species assessed till 2022 is 60,220. So that means that by the end of 2022, total assessed species are 60,220. Then invertebrates. So invertebrates, species assessed is 26,862. Their goal is 45,344. Plants, which are the earth's lungs, right, they have assessed till now 62,666. Likewise, the most under-researched and underfunded group are fungi and other species group, which includes, mushrooms and algae and all that. So these groups assessment goal is 14,500, but till now the species assessed are only 640. So this means that a lot of work has yet to be done in these lines, and they are trying their level best to do maximum surveys and get the list of threatened species, but still a lot of work has to be done if you look at the assessment goal and the species that are already assessed. So again, this is from their website, where they have mentioned that more than 42,100 species are threatened with extinction. So whatever data, whatever species they have assessed, from that 42,100 species are threatened with extinction. That means that if we do not take care, they are going to get extinct, right? And this 42,100 species is still 28% of all assessed species. So whatever species they have assessed, from that, this data that they are getting is only 28%. That means that there is still a lot to be done. So if you look, they have given percentage of amphibians which are threatened, 41%, 27% mammals are threatened, conifers are 34% threatened, birds are 13% threatened, sharks and rays are 37%, cycads are 69% threatened, right? Reef corals are 36% threatened. So all of this various categories they have shown, where they are showing that there are so many species that are threatened, and we need to be more responsible and need to think about the conservation of this species to preserve our biodiversity. So you can go to this website, which is IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, or you can just write iucnredlist.org. You can go to that website and you will get a lot of data related to IUCN Red List. So guys, friends, today it is losing its importance. This red data book, somebody started, but now it is all losing its importance. Why it is losing its importance? Because practice of single species conservation is done. Nowadays, if you will look, you will find that the government focuses on one species only. For example, say tiger. For example, say elephant. For example, say panda. The motto behind showing that bigger species is to basically conserve the whole food chain. But what happens is that instead of thinking about the food chain, there is a shift. Total fund goes into one single species conservation, because of which the other species which are smaller ones, which also needs funding, which also needs a lot of care, becomes invisible. So the practice of single species conservation is going on. There is a lot of lack of funds. Another point is this: funds are always needed. Now you will think that for conservation or for IUCN Red List, what funds are needed, right? But funds are needed at every level, right? Why funds are needed? Because, for example, you got to know that, okay, tiger is getting extinct. Fine. Now, so what will you do? You will have to take conservation steps for that species to conserve it. So for conservation, what you will do? You will try to increase its reproductive capacity. You will try to increase its habitat area, right? So to increase the reproductive capacity, you will have to keep the plant in captivity, which means that you will have to establish a separate space where you can keep those animals and take care of them and their babies. All that requires money, right? So a lot of fund is needed. Likewise, for surveys also, uh, the surveyors have to go from one place to another place to compile this list, and that also requires money. So there are many different levels where money is required, and therefore uh, lack of funds is also one of the reason why it is losing its importance. Third point is focus is on action plans, conservation assessment plans. Now, third point is that all are talking about action plans, but nobody is taking action. People will make action plans, they will make conservation strategies, but then they don't have enough data, they don't do a lot of research, and then ultimately all the action plan will go fail, and so the importance of red list is seen nowhere. So it has to be a concrete action plan which should go into action. So this does not replace red data book, and though the importance of this red data book is um, deteriorating, but this does not mean that red data book will be replaced, because red data book has a very important role to play. So how red data book helps in conserving species, that we are going to understand with the help of different points, right? So with every slide we will understand one point about how red data book helps in conserving species. Okay, so number one point is priority setting. What is priority setting? So red data book prioritize the species. Concentration is made on threatened species. The goal of red data book is to give priority to those species that are threatened, to give focus and concentration on those species only. So once you bring into focus a threatened species, then their conservation programs will be carried out, and in different ways conservation will be done. Hence, these threatened species are saved from extinction. Second point is they help shape public policy. So, public policies are shaped by red data book, because once red data book gives a list of the threatened species, so the government gets to know that okay, this species in our state or in our country is threatened. So now rules will be made related to their trade and habitat protection. Now the government will become active, and they will understand that it is important to protect their habitat, because if we do not protect their habitat, the species will get extinct, and any kind of illegal trade or something that is going on related to that organism, rules will be prepared for that, right? Therefore they help to shape public policy. Third is red data book identifies key habitats, key issues and key sites. So it shows how, where and why species are dying out. Basically the point is that red data book gives a detailed analysis of how, where and why the species are dying. Why are they going towards extinction? It gives a detailed analysis, and thus it gives shape and force initiatives aimed at eliminating harmful activities and practices. So once the analysis is obtained, once we know the reason that these are the reasons because of which the species are dying out, so hence initiatives will be taken to eliminate those harmful activities because of which the species are dying out. So these activities will be either performed at local level, national level and international level, but whatever initiative that is taken will be in favor of protecting that organism. It targets funds and reduces cost. This is very important because funds as I already explained, are very important, because if you say that this particular species is threatened and you want to conserve it, you need money, and that money has to come in the form of funds from various wildlife organizations, funds from normal publics as well, right? And funds from whichever sources that is possible, so that the conservation programs can run properly. So by receiving funds and reducing costs, how cost is reduced? It prevents needless repetition, right? How needless repetition is prevented? For example, now a network of various surveyors is there. For example, one person surveying in India, right? And there is another person also who is surveying in India. Now that person found person one found that tiger is, for example, very less at a particular place in India. Person number 2 also found the same thing, but person 1 found it much earlier than person 2. But since they were not in contact, the same thing was found out, and it was a repetition, which was like a waste of time, right? So to prevent this needless repetition, a network of people is made, and research is introduced to each other. There is a lot of research that is going on. So if one person if one person identifies one species that is threatened, it is communicated in the form of research, so that another person reads it and knows that now we have to work in another lines, because this has already been found out, right? So it prevents needless repetition, it introduces researchers to each other, and it helps complement effort at minimal expense. So whatever efforts for conservation is to be made, efforts are made that minimal expense is done, because reducing cost is also one goal. And last is, it helps establish flagship species. Now, what is a flagship species? Basically, if you look here, right, this is a giant panda. You all know giant panda is a flagship species. Why is it a flagship species? For that, you have to understand that flagship species are species that are basically species of larger size, very different in appearance, and people notice those species because of their specific characteristics, right? So panda everyone knows because it looks different. It is like a teddy bear. It is very playful. So the IUCN calls this kind of species as a flagship species, which might not be a keystone species, but this species is like an ambassador, which the IUCN announces, because seeing this species, people will donate, right? In place of panda, if I show a snail, if I make a small snail as the ambassador, certainly people are not going to donate, because they will think that this is such a small snail, what is the importance of that particular organism? So a big organism is considered, who is unique and different. This organism is considered as a flagship species, based on which people will donate. And there is another term which is called keystone species. Keystone species are very important species, because these species, for example, like tiger, they denote the structure and function of the ecosystem. For example, a tiger is at the top of the pyramid. Tiger is the highest predator and it feeds on various herbivorous organisms. Having a tiger in forest is very important because tiger feeds on herbivorous organisms and the balance of ecosystem is maintained, because herbivorous organisms, if not controlled, they will eat everything, every plant that will come in their way, and hence greenery and vegetation will be gone. So it is important that these type of predators like tiger should be conserved. So basically, keystone species are those species who have a very big impact uh, on the balance of the ecosystem. If these organisms won't be there, the ecosystem will perish. But in case of tiger, it is a keystone species also and it is a flagship species also. Keystone species because it is important for the balance of the ecosystem, and flagship species because it is a big organism, it is a unique and different organism. People see it and they then think of conservation because it is very much visible and it has a vibrant appearance. Whereas in case of panda, panda is not a keystone species because uh, if panda is not saved, not a lot of things are going to happen, right? It is not going to have a very much big impact on the ecosystem. But yes, it is a flagship species. It is a species that is unique and therefore it is kept as a flagship species, as an ambassador, so that the environment gets conserved in the name of the species, right? So therefore priority setting has all these points, where the last point is it helps establish flagship species. Second point is comprehensiveness. Now, what is comprehensive? Comprehensive is covering everything, right? So the Red Data Book offers full coverage of major groupings. Whatever major groupings are there, for example, animals, in animals also various groupings are there, vertebrates, invertebrates. It gives a full coverage of all the groups, because though the real extent of biodiversity is unknowable and the real extent of loss of biodiversity is also unknowable, but as far as possible, Red Data Book tries to cover everything, right? So we don't know that how much biodiversity is there, and at the same time we also do not know that how much biodiversity has been lost, because we have not surveyed everything. So therefore, Red Data Book covers entire classes of animals, vertebrates or plants. It offers full coverage of major sources, a full assessment of all evidence information. That means Red Data Book does not has blind faith on anyone. It is not like somebody said and they believed. No. They offer full coverage of major sources. From whatever sources they are getting the data, they are assessing all the evidence, all the information, and then they are putting it into the red list. A lot of research is being done and then that species goes into the red list. So there is no blind faith. They create new depths of information. Basically, when you do research, when survey is done, a lot of information is being noted, right? For example, what is the species, what is the number of the species, right? What was the past range, what is the present range, what is the numerical status, like number of the species, what is the seasonability, before how the animals used to breed in which season, now they are breeding in which season, what is their current status, what is the protection of their habitat, what is the habitat status of these organisms. All these things are noted because Extinction is a serious problem, and for that, every bit of knowledge that you get, every bit of information that you get is important. Every bit of knowledge matters. Therefore, they give a new depth of information, and they assemble all the facts reasonably available. Whatever facts they are getting, they compile it all together and then uh, give represent that in front of the world. They are primary source of data. Red Data Book is a primary source of data. Why primary source of data? Because it becomes central reference for a species and cornerstone for further documentation as well as for further action. If now see, for example, a list of species has been obtained which are threatened. So it is a kind of reference which other people, other researchers, other surveyors will refer to that list, right? And these are also the cornerstone of further documentation. Now, for example, 1 to 100 list has been made, and now this list will be carried forward for documenting about other species as well and to take actions related to their conservation. So this is a primary source of data. They repatriate data. What is repatriate data? Every data is properly researched, right? So a lot of research is being done for every data that has been provided in Red Data Book. So it brings modern students of the species in contact with material otherwise commonly beyond the reach. Imagine if no survey was being done. Imagine if no research was being done. Would ever any student be able to reach up to the list of species that are threatened? No. So therefore, it brings the students, the researchers in contact of the species and the various reading material that is available now. So it makes data available. They are the foundation of biodiversity databases. So these books report the degradation of ecosystem, and such data helps in data management system. Now see, a lot of threatened species are there, a lot of lists has been made. So this list serves as database. This database shows that to what extent our ecosystem is degrading, and based on that these all data is managed and conservation strategies are carried out. They create in-house level of expertise. What is in-house level of expertise? For example, say there is a plant taxonomist. Okay, so a plant taxonomist will know everything about plants of a particular area. So here people access database. So when people start doing surveys, they become expert in that topic because they will know every plant or every animal that comes across because they have been surveying for long. So the people themselves act as database. They are the experts who give us the final red list for the Red Data Book. Third is objectivity. They impose a global standard. Right? What is global standard? Global standard is important because it provides rigorous analysis at global level using internationally agreed criteria so that species are evaluated beyond their national significance. Right? See what has been mentioned here. A rigorous analysis is done at global level. The analysis is not just done at national level, it is also done at global level because something might be significant at national level, might be important at national level, but at global level that species might be not that important. So everything is been assessed at global level using internationally agreed criteria, right? There are criteria for every category, so that based on that international criteria only rigorous analysis is done. So that establishes a global standard. Standard is not something that one country establishes, it is established by the members of various committees together, and hence a global standard is made. Thus, a species declared nationally at risk may be globally secure. Now, this is important because, for example, there is one species. I'm just giving an example. For example, a species, say elephant, is declared nationally at risk, right? Which means that they are threatened nationally, but they may be globally secure. But once global survey was done, for example, they found that elephants are in good number globally. So then that is not a matter of concern. Or a species which is considered nationally of low priority. For example, there is some species, say for example, say myna. Myna is a bird, right? So that bird is of low priority, for example, in a country, right? But that species may prove globally at risk. Now, when global assessment is done, it the data might come that myna is globally at risk. So therefore, it is very important that you assess at local, national and international level using international criteria, so that the risk assessment at national and global level can be measured. They are neutral and independent, which means whatever decisions, whatever various types of informations they are giving is based on a good amount of research, and therefore it is not a biased work, it is neutral and independent. They place the evidence in public domain. See, this is very important. Whatever list is coming of threatened species, they are putting it in public domain so that people can know that, see, these are the list of threatened species and it is happening because of this reason. We need to take care, so that people can see that directly. So it is put into public domain, which is very important for conservation at personal level. You know, self-realization is equally important. Fourth point is motivation. So they are democratic, which means whatever decisions they take evidence from everyone's suggestions, and then they finally put the list. They inspire participation. Red Data Book inspires participation because this is a work which cannot be done alone by 2 or 3 people. So many people have to participate, so many people have to survey at both state level, national level and international level. So as much as participation is inspired, this creates conditions for effective conservation. So once you know that what species is threatened, so then the Red Data Book gives further actions, as in what effective conservation measure can be taken. They create networks. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this is very important because unless and until you have network, you will keep on repeating things which will be like a time waste. So it is very important that network of people is created so that everyone knows what work has been done and now what is to be done. They shape and mobilize popular support. So they try to obtain support by the idea of endangered species is basically well entrenched in modern culture. So by showing the data in public domain, what IUCN is trying to do. IUCN is trying to inculcate the idea of endangered species, threatened species in the modern culture. They are trying to show to people, trying to awaken people that see, these species are getting threatened because of us. So let us take a step towards conservation, which will motivate people to support the cause. They educate. So Red Data book educates you about uh, the various threatened species that are present in the world and about their conservation. This becomes a source book in conservation biology. For all those who are trying to conserve the species, Red Data book is a primary source of information. Establish links with relevant disciplines, and also a very important point is that Red Data book also establishes a link between different disciplines like botany, like zoology, like genetics, right? For example, one species is moving towards extinct. For example, genetics people, they will try to understand the evolutionary aspect or genetical aspect of those species. So genetics comes into picture. Those who are dealing with plants, botany comes in picture. Those who are dealing with animals, zoology comes in picture. So every different discipline, environmental, biology, everything is coming into links in this particular Red Data book. So that were the points where I explained that how Red Data books helps in conservation. Right now we will take a brief look into Indian Red Data book. Right, so as I said that Red Data book is a list of you know a list of threatened species around the world, and we had also seen that later on every country, every nation was urged to make their own Red Data book, and hence came into picture the Indian Red Data book. So this Indian Red Data book includes the conservation status of animals and plants which are endemic to Indian subcontinent. So only those plants and animals which belong to India, which are endemic to India, which cannot be seen anywhere else, such plants and such animals are being listed in the Indian Red Data book. For example, this that you see is the Red Data book on Indian animals. Okay, so it is also mentioned part 1 vertebrata, which includes mammalia, aves, reptilia and amphibia, right? So the data is obtained through surveys. How do we get the data? We get through surveys. Surveys done by Zoological Survey of India and surveys done by Botanical Survey of India. Botanical Survey of India is BSI and Zoological Survey of India is ZSI, right? So both of these bodies, they keep on doing surveys, and that surveys helps us to get the list. And these bodies, they come under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So it contains list of all the threatened species in India. So basically, India is a party to CBD. What is CBD? United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. This is a mandatory obligation on parties to international treaties. Whenever you want to go into international treaties, so any country has to be a part of this CBD, which is United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. So India, so therefore since they are the part of this CBD, they have to submit report to the conference of the parties on a regular basis. So they submit the reports related to Red Data book on a regular basis. So let us take a very brief look into what is IUCN Red List categories. I have made a very detailed video related to this, which the link of which has been shown here in the I button, as well as you can I'll be sharing the link in the description also, so that you can go there and see the video. But here I'll just give a very brief outline that the IUCN Red List categories are divided into two parts: evaluated and not evaluated. Evaluated means that which has been studied. Not evaluated means there are many species which are not yet been studied. Evaluated includes two things: adequate data and data deficient. That means there are some species for which we have a huge amount of data, and for some species we do not have a lot of data. So adequate data has the following categories: extinct EX, extinct in wild EW, critically endangered CR, endangered EN, vulnerable VU, near threatened NT, and least concern LC. Now see, that which is extinct, we cannot do anything for that. So extinct are basically all the species that are no more there in the world, may it be animals or plants. Second category is extinct in wild, which means that these organisms does not exist in wild anymore. You cannot see them in the forest or anywhere, but they are there. They are present in the domestic environment because people are taking care of them or people are growing them around their houses or keeping them as pets, but they are not there in the wild. Then third category is critically endangered, which means that this category, if not taken care, right, can go into extinct in wild. So this is a category which can move towards extinction if not taken care about their conservation. Then endangered species are those species which, if not taken care, will go into critically endangered and hence can move towards extinction, right? And vulnerable is a category which still, if not taken care, can move into the category of endangered and can ultimately move towards extinction. Near threatened and least concern. Near threatened are all those species which does not come into the criteria either of critically endangered, endangered or vulnerable. Hence they have been kept in a different category, which is near threatened. They are not threatened basically, but if not taken care, can move into vulnerable. And the last category is least concern, which means that we don't have to worry a lot about these species because these species are in a good number and hence it is not a matter of concern. What we have to understand is that when we say threatened species, these three categories come into picture: critically endangered, endangered and vulnerable. If not taken care, vulnerable species can move into endangered list. If not taken care, endangered can move towards critically endangered. If not taken care, critically endangered can move towards extinct in wild and then into extinction. Therefore, these three categories are considered as threatened species, and if not taken care about their conservation, about their habitat, about their reproduction, the line will move this side and extinction can happen. So these three categories are considered IUCN Red List threatened categories basically. Okay. So according to the 6th National Report NR6 submitted to United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity CBD, right, list of animals under the red list keeps on increasing in the country. So in our country, the list of animals that are threatened keeps on increasing. This indicates that there is a lot of stress on the biodiversity due to our activities like habitat fragmentation, like wood deterioration, like forest cutting, right? In 2009 NR report, that is national report, the number of animals listed were 413. In 2014, 646 animal species were reported. In 2018, 683 animal species were reported. Marine ecosystem hosts nearly 20,444 faunal species, of which 1,180 species are threatened. So, from this report from 2009 to 14 to 18, what we can understand is that people's understanding has increased. So also a lot of assessment has been done. In 2009 the assessment was less. Then in 2014 more area was assessed. In 2018 again more area was assessed, and therefore the number of species kept on increasing, and therefore the threat has also increased, because as and when more organisms will come in the list, that means that more of the organisms are threatened. But there is a bright spot to this research also. In past 4 years, new species have been recorded. Around 3,655 floral and 1,693 faunal species have been recorded, which would never have been recorded if no survey would have been done. So therefore this is a positive side of the work, that new species came into existence, but at the same time we also got a list of species that are like threatened. So India is among the 17 mega diverse countries, but many parts of it are still unexplored. India is a very beautiful country and it has a lot of biodiversity, but still a lot of it has been unexplored, and hence a lot of plants and animals can yet be found out. Now let me give you some numbers to make you understand that due to IUCN Red List, conservation programs have been carried out, and because of that there has been rise in the number of certain animals. So the population of lions has been increased from 177 in 1968 to over 520 in 2015. There is an increase. The number of elephants has increased from 12,000 to 30,000 in 2015. One-horned Indian rhino, which was on the brink of extinction during the early 20th century, now numbers 2,400. Now, how do you think this has increased? This is impact of the conservation activities carried out at the national and international level to conserve these species. And why has this conservation been taken place? Because they were in the red list. Somebody listed it in the red list. They did research and they said that this is a threatened species, so conservation activity has to be carried out, which was carried out and has hence resulted in the increase in the number of these organisms. And therefore red data book and the red list plays a very important role to bring into light those species that are threatened, so that the conservation activities can be carried out. So let us take a quick look into the threatened species of India. Among the animals, the Asian wild buffalo, the Asiatic lion, which is found in the Gir National Wildlife Sanctuary, brown antlered deer, which is also called as sangai, dugong is a kind of marine mammal, edible nest swiftlet. This is a bird. Basically, this bird builds a nest from saliva which hardens. A white nest is made from the saliva, and that nest has a very high cost in the market, from which soups are being made in China, and therefore this particular bird is very much exploited. Gangetic river dolphin. If we take into look into some of the threatened plants, Clematis apiculata, which is endemic to Khasi Hills of Meghalayas, Syzygium travancoricum, which is endemic to Travancore Hills of Kerala, Ficus andamanica, which is endemic to Andaman Islands, Strychnus narcondamensis, which is endemic to Narcondam Island, Nicobar, Crotalaria longipipes, which belongs to Tamil Nadu, Koli and Nilgiri Hills. So these are some of the plants. All of these plants are endemic now to only these regions, which means that Clematis you can find only in Meghalaya Khasi Hills, Crotalaria only in Nilgiri Hills. So this is very important that these species are being conserved there. There are some other animals also like Great Indian Bustard, Indian Rhino, Jordan's Horse, Malabar Civet, Marine Turtles, Nicobar Megapod, Nilgiri Thar, Snow Leopard, Swamp Deer and Vultures. See, all of these animals and plants are not extinct, but they are into threatened categories, which means they are into critically endangered, they are into endangered either, or into a vulnerable category. So if not taken care of these species can move towards extinction, and their moving towards extinction will means a disbalance in the ecosystem, in the environment, and a loss of biodiversity. So every organism has a role to play, and therefore it is important that they are being conserved in their habitat. So thank you very much for your kind listening. This was all about Red Data Book and IUCN Red List category. At the end, I'll just say that be responsible of all your activities. Don't harm organisms knowingly or unknowingly, right? They also deserve to live, and their habitat is the green patch, the environment, the habitat in which they live. We have no right to destroy it. So Red Data Book is a very big initiative taken by the IUCN, and a lot of people are working in this, and therefore a lot of threatened species are coming into picture, and we should take care about its conservation strategies. Thank you a lot for your listening. If you have any doubt related to this topic, please feel free to ask any question related to this in the comment section. Also, I would want to say that I have now our WhatsApp channel of Botany with Fernful Live, the link of which again I'll be sharing in the description box. You can directly join the WhatsApp channel where I can directly share the videos with you, and in one notification you can go and see the video directly on YouTube. Thank you very much. Stay connected. Do subscribe to the channel if you think that this video lecture was helpful to you. Thank you.